Okay, I want to talk about coming to God with love. But first, I want to ask you a question. If you are taught that God views you as worthless or unworthy, if you are taught that you have to give up your will or be compliant and cover yourself up and sever yourself from self-knowledge in order to be received, if you are taught that there is always a plan and a reason and that you are supposed to sit and just take that reason and grow from it, even if it's harmful to you, if you are taught that in order to be holy and devout and good and faithful, you have to stay in spaces that are bad for you, I want to ask you what God those ideas serve. Because if you are supposed to be under a God of love and being loved by God, but all of the bodies and the leadership and the spaces that are supposed to be teaching about them, that are supposed to be the official trustworthy ones, are re-giving to you, are reaffirming to you these ideas of worthlessness, of inability to govern yourself, of inability to be trustworthy of yourself. And also, I would dare say teaching that God is not sovereign, because a lot of these spaces say, oh, well, this could be a portal to demons, and that can be a portal to demons, and this can be... Motherfucker, the church itself is a portal to demons. And y'all don't understand demons. There's a whole lot of racism, sexism, abuse, shame, all kinds of things flowing around, and people are worried about old boy over there who may or may not have a club foot. Like, you could ask him for a favor, but the favor you ask should be to fix yourself. Anyway, that's not the direction I wanted to go today. So these spaces that teach captivity, that teach lack of accountability, that teach that you are weak internally and unworthy and must rely on something, those are not spaces that also want for you to be sovereign. Those are not spaces that actually want for you to have eternal life. Those are not spaces that actually want for you to be empowered. Those are spaces that want to be empowered through your essence instead of helping you cultivate yourself, right? What God does it serve besides the entities of corruption, besides the entities of abuse, besides the entities of governmental dictatorship? Who does it serve? When your mind is constructed or given these lessons in such a way, especially when you're brought up as a child, like through generations over and over and over, or isolated, or whatever it is, when you're isolated and insulated, even when you're really in these spaces of the lesson being that you cannot trust yourself, that you have to trust your husband and then church leadership and then this and this and then, like, you're the last person that you can trust. You're the last person on earth to connect with. Those are not religions that bring you closer to God. Those are religions that are on purpose taking you farther from yourself and praying that you never catch on to it. So I want to offer instead that you can come to God through a lot of ways. And one of them, and this was in the comments earlier, I did a response video when I first woke up, kind of talking about self-governance. And I did the response video on purpose. I do not want to misquote the comment at all, but just that thought of, when we cast off salvation, we're also casting off sin, and we're saying that we're self-governing. Yes, because there is nothing in my mind that can ever separate me from God irreparably or irrevocably. I am eternally connected to God. I was born connected to God. I am as much of God in spirit as I am of Gaia, because Gaia is also God. The entire thing is connected. Thing one. Thing two, the ideas that we have been given about sin are incredibly dangerous. Yes, there's an idea that we experience things that make us feel separate from God. If I have done something horrible or something horrible has happened to me, if I have been unkind, if I feel unworthy, these things that make me forget my connection to divinity and what that source love really is, yes, those things are separations. But are those separations castings away by God? Fuck no. The Lord, the Holy Creator, the Blessed Mother, the divinities, the mysteries, okay, they are not casting you away because of that. Now, don't get me wrong. If you're a war criminal, then probably, I hope so. But that's also me being a human saying I hope so. And I think humans should bludgeon the people who are war criminals. I think we need to handle our own. But that also goes back to that space of not having accountability. When we don't have accountability for ourselves and we're not comfortable being self-sovereign, we sure as hell are not comfortable taking responsibility for other people. If we don't want to see ourselves and reckon with ourselves and know what we've done and say, okay, well, there has to be a path forward, then we definitely don't give a fuck about other people's health care, safety, or transformation, or their grace. That is why so many people lean so gung-ho into this weird ass, like, fucking white American Jesus that's just gonna burn everybody. And it's like, bro, have you even looked into the etymology of the words that you're using? Have you even checked the translations? I'm just wondering. Have you looked contextually at where and how that religion was birthed, and what was going on at that time, what was popular at that time, and how you have transported it here and still got it fucked up? Again, I want to talk about coming to God through love, though. I really do. So, there are a billion different doorways to God. If anything can be a doorway to a demon, anything can be a doorway to God. It's really funny to me that certain religions will say that you can't interact with something because it could be a portal to whatever, but at the same time, your God is supposed to be the most delivering, active, strong, unbeatable, like, non-stop deity of all time. So then aren't all of these things tools under that God? Isn't every single thing something that can be utilized under that God? The math isn't mathing to me. There is nothing in the world under creation that is not of creation. Where is your heart? Where is your sovereignty? Where is your concept of heaven, hell, love, all of these things? Those things play a part in how you interact with the world. Anyway, so ouch. You can come to God through love. You can come to God through the beauty of flowers. You can come to God through meditation. You can look at a honeycomb and see, look at the divine design of that. Them to work as a team to make something so beautiful, so strong, lasting, powerful, healing. Can you imagine the idea that somebody would say we're not meant to interact with God, that we're not meant to interact with the natural world, that we're not meant to know her rhythms and her mysteries, when God themselves designed divinely these honeycombs, designed divinely these bees and the wasps and the flies and the mosquitoes and the frogs and all of the other pollinators? Can you imagine being told and believing? And I don't mean this in a shitty way, because there's a lot of things that I believe that I had to shed that belief, right? So let me fix my words there. But can you imagine? Can you imagine coming to God in a new way? Can you imagine coming to God because you're in awe of the structure of flower petals? Can you imagine coming to God because the sun rose and one day you went, damn, that sunrise is really special? Can you imagine coming to God through repeated action, through continual greeting every morning, through, a litany? Can you imagine coming to God in the honesty of your grief when somebody that you love dies or a friendship dies? Can you imagine coming to God over and over through welcoming and vulnerability and bliss? Can you imagine coming to God through orgasms and tears? Because you can. That's an option. That's an offering. That's a road. That's a doorway. That's a window. Knocking at the door, yes, you shall be answered. If I'm taught that I am unworthy, I'm not going to go knock on the door, because I am not going to see myself worthy of that conversation. I have a thing where every time I go to Mass, because again, I still go to Mass, when I go take communion, I do not say, Lord, I am unworthy. I don't, because I am worthy, or I would not be here taking the Eucharist. I am worthy, or I would not be here in communion. I am worthy, or I would not be called to this work. I have to see myself as worthy so that I am brave to go do things, so that I am ready to go do things. If everything of me and in my life is hinged upon this thought of giving my will over to God, then I'm not really doing anything fully. There are so many ways that you can come to God. And yes, they're not all beauty. Some of them are sorrowful. There are some things that have happened in my life or to me that I would never, ever, ever wish on my worst enemy, because I know the impact that they had on me. I would rather wish genuine, just rapid violence on somebody before I would ever wish some of the things that I've gone through on people. And the things that I've gone through have also brought me to God, though. And that's not to say suffering makes us stronger. Suffering fucked me up. My desire to keep going has both taken a toll and strengthened me. There is nothing that we get without exchange. I choose to keep going, so I choose to keep expending that energy, right? But sometimes you can be in a space of immense sorrow. And one of the places that I found God was when I was, going through a space of immense sorrow and grief. It was just darkness. And I found myself sitting and crying, holding my hands, screaming, scream crying, right? And I saw almost to the bottom of nothing. And in that nothing, God was with me. And they were not trying to make a reason out of anything or make a cycle or a purpose. But the abyss sat with me. The abyss of love can be the abyss of despair. And there they came, and they were the same thing, and they held me. Likewise, though, when I go and I see stained glass, or when I see Mary crowned in flowers, or when I see Oshun in anything, or when I think of how Obatala saved my life, or when I think of the ways that, my deceased ancestors and my relatives have shown up in my life, That is where we find God. So we can find God through awe, through ecstasy, through love, through emotion, through the daily miracles of the sunrise and your breath happening. There are myriad ways to find God that do not compromise your sovereignty. I love you.